Hello and welcome to this episode of Powerhouse Experts. We are excited about a new leg in, or a new spoke in the wheel that we call Powerhouse Experts. Today we have a special guest with us. He has been with us before. And today's show, we're calling it Powerhouse Roundtable. And what that is
That's my favorite pizza too.
Not bad, actually.
It really isn't. I'm telling
Not
you.
bad,
if you guys aren't in a part of the country that you know about Powerhouse Roundtable Pizza, man, try it when you come to Vegas. But that's not exactly what I'm talking about, Stormie.
Roundtable, if you're listening, send me some coupons.
That's right. We just gave you a plug. There you go.
Absolutely.
So what Powerhouse Roundtable is each quarter, once or twice, we're going to have a special episode where we bring on, it may be a previous guest, it may be another guest, an expert in different areas that's going to share in their expertise, not so much about them or their business, but on the topic base that we're going for. And today's subject was actually, a lot of it was spearheaded by our guest today. And that guest that we have is, and you always hear me saying it, he is the smarter. He is the better looking. He is the partner of Stormie, my trifling co-host.
Hey, I'm still trying to figure out who our expert guest is.
Our expert, I'm getting ready to tell you, he is the better one. You're just upset because he is the better of the two of you. He is the phenomenal CMO, I believe it is, of Yokel Local, Darrell Evans. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Wait. Darrell's our expert?
Darrell is our expert.
Don't hate. Don't hate.
That's right. Don't hate. It's not good to hate, Stormie.
It's about Thanksgiving time, man.
Oh,
that's right. It's about giving. Giving love.
That's how you show gratefulness to your partner.
Right, exactly. And we all know this would not have grown to this level had it not been for your partner. And it's because of your partner that today's topic that we're talking about. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, Darrell, you and I were having a conversation, and we were reviewing the things that have been happening over this past year. You know, doing kind of a check-in on what has happened and the things that should have happened and the things that we plan to happen. And as we know, each year we make these plans, and quite often it doesn't actually happen the way we want it to.
Never does.
It never does, exactly. So you had mentioned Q4. You had mentioned fourth quarter. And I was watching Bloomberg reports because you and I are both traders, so I watch a lot of Bloomberg. And on Bloomberg, they keep talking about Q4. We're right in the middle of Q4. And for a lot of businesses, they don't look at things as quarterly. And I thought that, you know what, let's share with some of the business individuals, the brands, the wannabe businesses, and the individuals that just want to empower themselves better. When you look at things quarterly, it's a lot easier to evaluate and to grow. So you were kind of the person that spearheaded this without knowing you were going to spearhead it, spearheading the first roundtable for us to talk about Q4 and then the four quarters that are coming in 2020. So thank you for that insight.
Sure. Glad I inspired.
that you didn't know you were doing. So, and Stormie and you and I had a conversation, and Stormie said, well, it's too late to talk about Q4. Excuse me. It's not too late, Stormie.
It's too late.
It is not too late. And here's the reason that I say that it's not too late, because if we never start the conversation, we have to start it somewhere. Right. And for a lot of businesses, like I said, on Bloomberg, they're talking about this, but everywhere else is not. And that's a fail. And a lot of businesses need to understand what that means with Q4. So Q4, what that means is your business year is broken up into 4 quarters. Q1, that's that January, February, March.
If a business doesn't know this, they don't need to be listening to this
But
show.
that's just it, Stormie. Many of them, you'd be surprised how many lucrative businesses
don't quarters?
Don't look at their quarters accordingly.
Here they go, y'all.
Wait. But you're about to give a definition of quarters. So if we're giving a definition of quarters, I'm out.
You were already out before we started. What are you talking about? You were never in. Anyways, back before I was so rudely interrupted. So you've got your every 3 months is based upon those quarters. So within each of those quarters, there is something that we need to discuss and figure out within our businesses. And today I want to talk about the fourth quarter. What should we already have in place, Darrell, Stormie, you all being a successful business? You've been in business for like 10 years now. So you've gotten over that first 5-year hump. I guess the first hump is 2 years, and then that 5 year, the 7 years, and then so now you're rolling into what they call a real business.
Right.
So that being said, let me ask you a couple of questions that might help some of the businesses. And like I said, there's wannabe businesses. There are brands that are really successful that have not established themselves for continual growth. And that's one of the things that this Q4 conversation needs to be about at this roundtable is how do we create growth by intention within our businesses? What are some of the things the tips that we can give business individuals or it doesn't even have to be with business, with life in general, because I think that growth in any type of growth is based upon intention. So how do we create that intention?
Well, that's a big question.
Yeah, that is a big question. I'm glad she asked you.
I didn't ask this to. It's going to you next. So you.
So big question. Wow. So, I mean, you're teeing up a conversation. First of all, thanks for having me on the show, both you guys. It's interesting because we are heading into our 10th year, and we've gotten to a place where statistically, they say 90% of all businesses fail in the first 5 years, and then of the 10% that made it past that, the next 90% fail in the next 5 years. So fortunately, we got about 38 days, and we'll be
we're good. It's high five time.
As long as we don't screw nothing up.
In the next 38 days, right?
As long as we don't screw nothing up.
That's it.
But seriously, you teed this up by saying a lot of businesses don't plan. They don't think about it quarterly. I'm not exactly sure the conversation you're referring to, but I probably said something to the effect of, I'm already into 2020. And that was a conversation that goes through my mind once I cross the midway mark of the year. Like, I'm already into the next year of thinking. Even though we're still handling day to day, we're still, reaching this year's objectives, we are planning what's actually going on into the calendar year. So we're looking at operational efficiencies or deficiencies. We're looking at sales efficiencies and deficiencies. We're looking at systems, what's broken, what's working right. And I should say, maybe as a business owner, thinking of this as a car, right? You have to take your car through regular scheduled maintenance. But unfortunately, a lot of times business owners, they only think about fixing things when the car breaks down. And unfortunately, in business, that could be the death of your livelihood, right?
Oh, yes.
You can't
So
always
true.
come back. And Stormie, you and I, we talked to, we don't know the exact number, but we don't have the books in front of us, but it's over hundreds of business owners a year, and some of them are on life support.
Absolutely.
And they want us to dive in and fix their marketing and sales problems. So I think just this grand topic of planning comes from, obviously years of beating on entrepreneurship and having both ups and downs and planning and not planning. And I don't think there's an exact science to it. I think, but to your point of being intentional, it's knowing where you want to go in the future, number one, and not just where you want to be next month or next quarter or next year. It's what do you really want in the grand scheme of things. And so I've always set plans, 4, 5, 6, 10 years out.
Oh, wow. Really?
Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness. When me and Stormie started this company, Stormie may not remember this, but we started this company, should I say he asked me to become his partner over a Cheesecake Factory lunch. and
Again, over food.
Growth. We were talking about growth, right?
Yeah.
Just in different areas.
Yeah, just in the midsection.
Cheesecake
Yeah.
was, absolutely different areas.
Food matters.
That's right.
But I was transitioning from a different career. He was transitioning from a different career. And, at that time, I evaluated my family life and household and children and that kind of thing. And I said I had a 13-year plan when we got this thing started. So we're coming up on 10. So I, in my mind, already had a 13-year plan, because once my youngest child gets out of high school and gets on to college, there was already something on paper for me. So I wasn't really planning the business as much as I was planning my life. And I think that might be key point number one, is a business should serve your life, not the other way around. Your business should serve your life. And so you got to decide what your life wants, what you want your life to look like, and then build your business around what you want your life to look like. Now, that's easier said than done, and it's not always easy, but that's one of the key points I'll start with.
Wow, that's powerful.
That's kind of interesting, because Darrell brings up a really good revelation there, because Darrell's actually been living that. And I'm going to give you two different stories, because since we've been in business, Darrell would schedule time to take vacations. I'm going to take a cruise. I'm going to take an extended vacation, and he completely disconnects. And then, and we've had the conversation about this because that's something that I've been just the opposite. Darrell's like, Stormie, you need to take vacation. Our business advisor says, Stormie, you need to take vacation. And someone really important to me says, honey, we need to take a vacation. So, I had all these signs, and it wasn't until recently that I came to the realization that, wow, I need to start taking vacations and disconnect from the business side. And I think a lot of business owners, some of them, like Darrell, they get it from the beginning. Some of them are like me. It takes them a while. They're a little stubborn, and they eventually get it. But then there's some that never get it. And they end up in a scenario to where their business is running them their entire lives. And they end up in this scenario where they can't leave their business. They can't even go on vacation. And then what happens, their health starts to fail. Or other issues start to creep in and kick in, and then they start to wonder, why did I do all this? And that's a problem.
Yeah, it's interesting that you just went to that direction on that, because that goes back to a book of mine that has been on my shelf since early 2000s. I just picked it up and finished it again, and that's called the Cashflow Quadrant.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I remember that from years ago.
By Robert Kiyosaki, right? So let's talk about really quick just his 4-part quadrant, right? The E, S, B, and I. And most entrepreneurs, they get stuck in the S quadrant. They think, great, let me leave corporate America, get out of the E quadrant, get to the S quadrant. I'm self-employed, I own my own business, etc. And there's
arrived.
Yeah, there's some 27 million, and to what Stormie was saying, and to the point of Cashflow Quadrant is that being self-employed, it just simply means you own a job.
Yes.
You just own a job, right? Until
Right.
you build systems, until you have a team. But if you get to the B quadrant, which is where I've endeavored to be in the last decade as we transitioned out, and actually, I guess, even more like 16, 17 years, getting to the B quadrant is where you've got, a business owner, true definition, as Kiyosaki would put it, a business owner owns or buys systems.
Right.
Right? And so the systems run the business, or the systems grow the business. And so everyone's got to start somewhere, which is in the S quadrant. But the goal to this conversation of planning is what we are planning as we continue to build this company is how to continue to build in systems, because we're not buying them. This was a grassroots effort of growing this company, but we're just continually adding systems that run and scale. And then we find talent who are great at operating those systems, who get to operate in their gift to continue to grow the business. And so when it comes to planning, talking about 2020, I mean, that's what's on my mind is what are the next 2 or 3 systems we need. And Stormie and I are always trying to get fired from more jobs inside the business.
Right.
Right. How do we get fired from more jobs? And it's a different thought process, because when you're in the S quadrant, you want to do everything.
Absolutely.
Like everything has to go through you.
If it's going to be done, it's up to you.
If it's going to be, it's up to
me, that's right.
Is the trap of the entrepreneur.
Yes.
Right. Stormie actually is a bit better at it. And I'll give Stormie some credit. He's been a bit better at that than me.
That's called lazy.
But no, in reality, Stormie has, sure, on the other side of things, I made it very purposeful and intentful to detach from the business because of a prior mistake of not doing that in my prior company. So I had another business before this business, and I didn't do that for about, 9-10 years. I was sort of just on the grind, as they say, and crushing it. And then my body was telling me, you ain't feeling too hot, my man. So it was just a different shift in paradigm. But that's the thing, the shift from the I got to do everything to how do I build systems? How do I build team? How do I build operational processes, SOPs, things that are going to happen routinely? Look, no one thinks about it when they go through a McDonald's drive-through. Those are all systems.
Absolutely.
True. Yes.
So,
yes.
that's what.
Now, one of the things that I know that you talked about, that cash flow quadrant. One of the things is when you're in that entrepreneur, and one of my coach, she so eloquently or rudely puts it, just depending upon how you look at it, brokepreneur. She says, get out of the brokepreneur stage. And within that stage where you're thinking, I have to do everything, if it's going to be, it's up to me. One of the things that stops individuals is fear. Did either of you ever go through? Well, I know that you probably did, Stormie, because the fact that you didn't, act upon, you're watching your partner doing this for years and you haven't acted. So how does fear play into this process or this paradigm shift that needs to happen?
You're talking about taking time off?
Yeah, taking time off, or
building
getting rid of
systems?
getting yourself fired from different jobs within the company, or creating the systems. And because even with systems, a lot of times if you're thinking it's up to me, then even that system, well, I can't trust that system.
Yeah.
I still have to do it myself. I still need to be writing my own letters by hand, you know?
Well, I want to take a different perspective there because, I had to realize over the last few weeks, my wife and I have been having some in-depth conversations about taking time off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs may suffer from. And for me, it wasn't fear. And I'm sure some of them, if you don't have systems in place and if you don't have good people, it's fear. But for me, I didn't know how to unplug. I didn't know how to enjoy the moment. I had no idea. I saw no value in vacations because every time we go on vacation, let me tell you what I was doing. I was thinking about, okay, when I get back to work, I've got to do this and that and that and this. So now I'm on vacation. I'm becoming a little anxious because of all these things that I got to do that I put in my mind while I'm on vacation. So it's about living in the moment. Now, and I'm sure there's definitely fear, but I think with entrepreneurs, some of them absolutely don't know how to unplug. And there takes a skill set. How do you unplug? How do you enjoy the moment? I've got a granddaughter now. And sometimes I even find when I'm speaking, when we're spending time, right? Let's say we're at the park. I'm thinking about, okay, we're at the park right now, but I'm thinking about getting home. And then once we get home, I'm thinking about putting her to sleep.
Wow.
And then, when I put her to sleep, I'm thinking about, I can't wait till she wakes up tomorrow so we can play. Tomorrow we're playing, and I'm thinking about the next step. And I think that's a problem with entrepreneurs because a lot of times entrepreneurs are constantly thinking in the future.
Yes.
But you can't do that as it pertains to your lives. Does that make sense? So that was the thing that I had to come to the realization of. Like, for instance, when you and I are recording our podcast, it's probably still healthy. How do I get out of this podcast? What am I going to do next? That's probably still a healthy activity, but for the rest of my life, it's probably not quite so. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs fall under that paradigm there.
Yeah. I think it is. It's saying that you're so responsible for everything. So one of your questions earlier, and I want to talk about it, is how does someone start if they're not there yet?
Yes.
When it comes to building systems, obviously a system has to be thought through and it has to be process driven, and then you have to insert people. So I think one of the first things you got to do as an entrepreneur when you're pivoting, in order to be able to take time off. So let's just go back to that. Why was it that I was able to take time off from day one, even when we barely had revenue?
That's a great
Right.
question.
Well,
yes.
Number one, I had great support at home. Number one, from my significant other, who said, at the end of the day, when we took the big leap of this, she was like, well, the bills got to be paid anyway.
Right.
So if it work, it work. If it don't, it don't. But either way, I got to have a roof over my head. So,
The shelter is not a good look on us.
so support is important. And that goes to the second point. Why is it that I can leave? And I'll tell everybody, I actually posted this on Instagram or LinkedIn just a couple months ago when we took our trip to the Bahamas. I delete my email account from my phone when I leave.
Wow.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I don't even, and I've been doing this for years. And so how is it that I've been able to do that? Well, I've got
yes.
support. I've got support with this guy on my right. And so if you think
I'm
about
glad
it,
you do.
when you think about it, if he's not in the office, I'm pretty sure, at least I'd hope he'd say that he knows 180% I got his back.
Right.
If I'm not in the office, I got to know that he's got my back 180. It doesn't mean we handle different operational roles. However, at the end of the day, I have to trust that the guy who's left behind can hold down the fort. And in my previous career, I was kind of one of the top dogs, and so it was like hard to leave during that time period. So it really comes down to systems, but then how do you find the right people? And I think that's something I've beat on for the last decade and a half in terms of hiring people. And I got lucky. I started my career as a restaurant general manager inside of Taco Bell, and at the height of my in my early to mid 20s, at one time I had 50 some odd employees that I was responsible to hire and train.
Wow.
I had 10 assistant managers at one time. So I was very early on developing talent. So I've just moved that into my entrepreneurial career and understanding that leverage and finding the right people and talent is important. And we've certainly made a ton of mistakes the last 10 years. We've had, some ups and downs in that area. It's not pretty, but you got to stay committed to it.
Right.
It's not pretty. It isn't always going to go right. In fact, I can assure you it don't always go right, but you got to stay committed to it.
Absolutely.
I can remember that takes me back to a thought. One of the first years We were all in. And for those of you who don't know, when I say we, there was a time that I was a part of the main team here at Yokel Local. Now I do contract projects here. So I'm actually on my own. But back when I was a part of the original team, 4 guys and myself, I remember.
You wore like 18 hats.
Yeah, wore 18 hats. That's right. I was the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the janitor, the everything. So whatever was needed is what I did because of the, building out the company. And as we were doing that, I'm curious if either of you remembers this. We had a meeting in December. It was our first corporate meeting of the executive team. And we took it off-site. We closed the office down, and we went to an executive suite. I think that you found. You remember that?
I remember that.
And that meeting, you said about
I
how difficult it was, how difficult the journey was, and the reason that I bring this up because in that meeting, as powerful as the both of you gentlemen are, and as much as I stick and jab Stormie, both of you are brilliant. You really are.
Thank you.
As businessmen, don't ruin the moment, Stormie.
No, I just want to stop this thought really quick. So I've got 2 choices here. So it looks like we've dropped our signal on Facebook Live. So I have the option of continuing the recording, so we have the audio, or I can stop it and then stop the recording and the broadcast and start up again. What do you think I should do?
I think we should keep going because I see it
continue
still
recording.
live.
I see it live.
I see it live.
Remember, we're on a
Yes.
delay.
It looks like it jumped back in. Usually when
okay.
it'll show an interruption. So it's
see
looking
what
like
happens.
it jumped back in.
Okay, well then
Pardon
we'll
the
continue.
technical interruption, folks.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So you can dive back in.
We'll
see
cut
what
this out.
happens.
He just did
Right.
that so that I'd have more to edit. So in the process of all of this, we were in this meeting. And in the meeting, we had some breakthroughs that we had to do. And I don't know if you guys remember, but this is something that I think is important to share as individuals are going through. And yeah, it shows the live interruption now. But as individuals are going through and they're digging deep, one of the things that happens is that as we're digging deep, it's painful. And I don't know if you guys recall, but every one of us in that room at some point in time during that 8 hours ended up in tears.
Every one of us?
Including you, Lumpy.
I don't cry.
Do you guys remember that?
I don't remember the tears.
I don't.
You don't?
I don't. But again, I mean, 10 years later with 18 billion things that we do.
Right.
I remember the meeting. I do
Yes.
remember the meeting. I can remember we were in a glass. I don't know what
I
remember
remember
us
where
having-
it was at. It was off of
Start it over again.
yeah. So that means I got to stop the recording and start it.
No, it's back live again.
Oh, okay,
It is
got it.
back live. Okay, it did
good.
come back on.
But yeah, I
and
don't remember the tears. I remember exactly where the building is. I can drive there right now, but I don't remember the tears.
It was a really, really emotional time for us that we, every person in that room at some point in time was in tears. Talking about the journey that we had gone on to get there. And Stormie, I'm going to kind of remind you because you had really risked. I'll stop. Go ahead and start it over.
It does look like it's paused.
What do you mean? You want me to stop the recording and start a new one?
Yeah, start a new recording because this is important.